Is the Vietnam veterans. It'll be led by Tim Manigan. Tim is a Vietnam veteran who served with the Tropic Lightning Division, and he is a 2-time Purple Heart recipient. Tim?
Must have been a tall person here. I have a few things to get through today, so just we'll get through it quickly. For the past couple of years, we have made certain that we pay special tribute to our World War II and Korean veterans. Last year, we had 6 World War II veterans. This year, there are 4 still residing here in Highland Lakes. Neil Ducharme is going to be 100 in February, and Robert Boulay, who is 101, are at another event being honored in Dunedin, so they're not with us today. I'm thrilled that Greg Bonadies is right here. He's 102, sitting right here. And he served in the Pacific, many islands, went through the Japanese attacks and everything, so we're glad to have him. I spoke on the phone this morning to Jack Moore, who is 101, but I don't see him. He said he was going to try and get here. Oh, there he is, Jack. Oh, Jack is here. Thank you. Oh, all right. Came at the last minute. Thank you, Jack. Jack served in the Philippines, earned many battles in World War II. So those are our Vietnam veterans, the youngest one being 99. And we have our Korean War veterans here, too. And I'll start with, well, first of all, Neil Ducharme is not here, and Jack Moore, who are World War II veterans, are also Korean War veterans, so that's amazing. We have Mike Mapo, who's 93, with his wife, Dolores, right here. Mike served in the Army. We have Nick Montano and his wife, Bibi. I think, Nick, are you 98, 99, 98? Okay, Nick. Don Mitchell. Don, where's Don? I saw Don earlier. Oh, right there. Okay, thank you, Don. He's 91. These are all Korean War veterans. Ed Martin, 93. Where's Ed? And his wife, Carol. And Pete Towns. Where's Pete? Pete and his wife, Evelyn, right here. And I think, Pete, you're 92 now? 92. Besides that, I just wanted to mention that we had a couple of people die recently that are pretty well known in Highland Lakes. Larry Campoli, everybody remember Larry Campoli? He did a lot here. His dad was a World War II Navy veteran, and he died, what, 3 or 4 days ago, Elaine? 3 or 4 days, at the age of 98. We also lost Dick Zerden. Dick Zerden was 92. He died Friday. He was a Korean War veteran. He lived here in Highland Lakes. So we just missed having them, and we recognize them today. Also today, we have 2 World War II widows here in the audience, and I want to introduce those. The first is Ann Betzold, and she's sitting right there. Her husband, Bob, was very active in Highland Lakes, and he survived the entire Battle of Iwo Jima, and they went to many years of reunions, and there's not many Iwo Jima survivors left, so we're glad to have you here, Ann. Also, we have Lillian Bean, and Lillian Bean, she's sitting right there. She turned 100 3 weeks ago. I was at her house. It's like being with somebody that's like 45. So, and her husband, Mark Bean, had an amazing course of history in World War II. He was in the Navy for 6 years, and he was assigned to the USS Texas, which is a battleship, and it was in every major battle of World War II, including D-Day, Iwo Jima, Okinawa, the African landings, the Italy landings, and so he saw it all. So we're so glad that Lillian is here with us today. So we want to pay tribute to the Vietnam veterans today. And when we started planning this observation, I have to admit, at first I resisted the idea. I thought, we've got plenty of time left, as Vietnam veterans, I kept telling myself. And then gradually, I started realizing that what was really going on in my mind was that the whole idea of it was so personal because I'm a Vietnam veteran, and I wasn't sure how I was going to approach it. But then I looked in the mirror and realized I'm 77, and the time has come. A part of me, I still feel like I'm that 20-year-old soldier that was able to walk day after day, hour after hour, in the sun in Vietnam. And in my heart, I'm still one of those guys that survived the 1968 Tet Offensive. And we did it week after week of day and night combat with almost no sleeping. I still think I'm that kid, But I'm not. And so the time has come. Some 2.7 million Americans served in the combat zone in Vietnam, and about 750,000 survived, which means that 2/3 of all the people that served, actually both boots on the ground in Vietnam, have died. So the time has come. I served as the historian for the 25th Infantry Division. And I know that more than 3/4 of the men I served with in Vietnam have died. And so the time has come. And when we first began discussing about honoring Vietnam veterans, we had some meetings. I realized that all the old debates and all the old misconceptions and all the old fears and all the old unhealed wounds came immediately to the surface. And I had to realize that those things had not faded with time. They continue to simmer just below the surface all these years later. So we must address this reality, that we still carry the scars, and we still seek respect, and we still seek understanding. And we are keenly aware that while the battles of prior wars have been observed each year, there will be no observations for the battles that we were in. And we fought in places with strange names, like the Iron Triangle, Khe Sanh, Da Nang, the Ai Drang Valley, Hue, Pleiku, Cu Chi, and others. But those places live in our hearts. So the time has come. I want to state clearly that contrary to a lot of myths, nearly all of us served honorably. We acted professionally. We conducted ourselves with courage and bravery under incredibly difficult circumstances that are still misunderstood. And 70% of us volunteered to go to Vietnam. People must realize that. The time has come. We have never looked for a handout. We have never looked for special privileges. And when we didn't receive the same treatment as the veterans who came before us, we responded by working for years to force the Veterans Administration medical care to become the better situation that it is today. We did that. And we made a solemn promise that any veterans that came after us would be treated with dignity. The time has come. We never wanted anyone to feel sorry for us, and we don't want sympathy. And when Vietnam veterans realized we needed a place to come together and mourn and heal, we built the Vietnam Memorial in Washington. And there were those who ridiculed the design, and only later people came to realize that unlike other Washington memorials, it was deliberately designed as a simple statement in black with names and nothing else. It was designed to whisper out to America and say, stop here, remember us. And we didn't take a dime of taxpayer money to do it. It was built and supported even now entirely by donations. And for years, it has been the most visited memorial in Washington. People should know these things. The time has come. You know, at the beginning of the Vietnam War, all the polls said the Americans supported the war. And while we were over there, gone over there serving, American sentiment changed and political will disappeared, right while we were sacrificing all we could. We must remember these things. The time has come. All of this made us stronger and better and more tolerant. We are not broken, shattered losers. Instead, statistics show that 97% of us were honorably discharged. 90% of us who saw heavy combat are proud of our service. 75% of us who saw heavy combat say we would do it all over again, even knowing the result. So history is complicated, and the time has come. I need to tell you something. I was shot in the chest on March 14, 1968, and I was saved by a helicopter crew that came in under heavy gunfire, and they saved me. March 14, 1968. 2 weeks later, on March 31st, 1968, I was laying in that hospital bed when the guy who sent us to Vietnam, Lyndon Johnson, announced that he would no longer run to be president. I was laying in that same hospital bed. A few days after that, on April 4th, 1968, when Martin Luther King was assassinated in Memphis. I was laying in another hospital bed in Japan, still recovering, on June 5th, 1968, when Bobby Kennedy was gunned down in Los Angeles. Now, I offer these memories not to talk about myself, because I've never wanted my life to be defined on what happened to me in Vietnam. I want my children to remember me as a good guy and a good father and a successful businessman and a hard worker. That's what I want to be remembered by. But I list the incidents today in an effort to try to explain that when people think of Lyndon Johnson or Martin Luther King or Bobby Kennedy, they regard this as history. But to Vietnam veterans, it's part of our history. It's part of our personal history. We were wrapped up in the events that happened in those days, and they shaped us into the people we are. These things should be made clear. The time has come. Because I was a newsman, I had the opportunity to travel the country and interview dozens of Vietnam veterans. And in the process, I found out something. I found out that the stories they told did not begin and end with just the veteran. I learned that Vietnam impacted and changed the lives of an entire generation of Americans. Let us always remember we are in this together. The time has come. I'm going to turn this back over to Don in a minute, but let me close by saying, it has always been the greatest honor of my life to, over the years, to have known and met so many veterans who served during the time of Vietnam. Knowing you has made my life better. And I know most of you have lived your life with dignity, and you carry a quiet pride inside of yourself. You don't go around bragging, but you know what you accomplished. And you never sought special attention. But the time has come today, this morning, for you to accept some recognition for a job well done. Accept it not just for yourselves, but for your children and your grandchildren, and on behalf of the country that you still love. The time has come. The time has come. Okay.